Dear participants, welcome back to one more interesting session on conflict resolution being delivered by Professor Vijay Lawrence, a good friend of mine. And I take the privilege to introduce our speaker to the August gathering here. Vijay Lawrence acquired his BE degree in the year 1989 from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore, later pursued MS Engineering by research from BITS Pilani, and pursued his post-graduation in the area of operations management from IGNOU. And he is the fellow of Institution of Engineers and also a certified chartered engineer. To his experience, he was earlier working for BEML as BEML at KGF as industrial engineer, and later switched to Ashok Leyland, Hosur, as a senior industrial engineer, and had a teaching experience as a faculty in the BMS College of Engineering, and later moved to a management school where he is currently the associate professor at St. Joseph Institute of Management Studies. So he's also got enormous experience and exposure to the ISO, the quality standards, material cost analysis, MIS. He's worked in various fields as an industrial engineer, and as a professor, he is engaged topics like industrial engineering, organizational behavior, operations research, and it goes on. To his credit, he has over 18 papers presented and published in national and international conferences and journals. So with this profile, may I now request our distinguished speaker, Professor Vijay Lawrence, to take over and address the gathering about what is conflict resolution and how important is conflict resolution in the leadership perspective. And hopefully, I think the participants will definitely gain enormous knowledge on this particular issue of the leadership qualities. Over to you, sir. You can now please share the screen, sir.
Yeah, Rajesh, I'll do that. Is my screen visible? Hello? Dr. Rajesh, is my screen visible? Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yeah. So,
sir, you please be little audible, sir. It is little low.
It's low, is it?
Yes, sir. Now, little better.
Sure. I'll increase the sound, Rajesh. Or
yes,
is
sir.
it better?
Little more if you can. It's all fine.
Yeah, I'll increase, Rajesh. I'll
yes,
just
sir.
increase the audio. Okay. So, a very good morning to all the faculty.
You need to come close to the mic, I guess, sir.
Yeah, I'm in the mic only, Rajesh.
Okay, sir.
I'll just set again. I'll check again.
Please, sir.
In the Zoom, how do I do it? It's telling use the audio conference and using a microphone. How do I do that? Rajesh, I'll check again. Share sound, I could. It's still not good, Rajesh, the sound?
This is better, sir. This is better.
Okay, sure. Good. So, thank you, Dr. Rajesh, for this kind word. As Dr. Rajesh mentioned, we are very good friends and know each other from a long time. And at the outset, I congratulate and compliment the management of MS Ramaya Institute of Technology and especially IM department for organizing this Atal FDP on the title, Nurturing Today's Learners to Become Tomorrow's Leaders to Face Global Challenges. As mentioned, I'll be speaking for 2 hours Dr. Rajesh, do I give a break in between or do I go like that non-stop?
Sir, we can stop for the questions in between.
Oh, sure, Rajesh, I'll do that. Okay. So I was just listening. Before I go ahead, I just wanted to mention how this has been tailored. And I was listening to Mr. Badrish, the former vice president of ACE Designers, who was speaking about the inclusive workforce. And yeah, so that even that is related to what I'm going to talk, having a diverse workforce or inclusive workforce. No, I mean, even in a nominal work setup, conflicts are bound to happen. So let's go ahead. Now, my presentation would be based on understanding what a conflict is and how to manage these conflicts. And now, conflicts are there at different levels, at the interpersonal, between people, within the department, and between units. Let's say there are various business units of a big corporate, and it could, and functions, functional disorientation could be there. And then conflicts can happen between friends, between siblings, and between colleagues, and no whatnot. And again, in the official setup, no, it is, nothing is going to be a cakewalk. See, there is going to be downsizing, there's going to be layoff, and there's going to be heated exchanges between colleagues. And no, it could be also because of budget allocation and all that. Okay, so now there are two distinct approaches. Now, if you look at, there are numerous approaches. I'll be touching upon two approaches. One is the 5 steps, and there's another one, conflict resolution approach. It's called the Thomas Kilmann approach. So these are two things, and then we'll briefly touch upon some other. In between, I'll put a small video, and to the extent possible, I'll make it interactive. So if at all you feel like you want to raise a question or clarify on something which I'm speaking about, you're most welcome. Okay, so let me go ahead. Yeah, this is the topic on conflict resolution. And see, again, as I was telling you, conflict is something which is unavoidable, or we can call it as inevitable. Something like most of us who will be knowing what is inventory management. That's a big activity by itself. But if you look at, it is like some people know, we know one definition of it is unavoidable, but it is the inventory. It's like that. No conflict. You cannot argue. I mean, you cannot agree with everyone every time. So I just want to make a point here about the late Arun Jaitley. He passed away last year. You know that person. Once there was this National Productivity Council, and he gave a speech, and then I still remember. I listened to that. He's telling, no, it is necessary. You cannot learn anything from somebody who always agrees with you. So that's what, no, it's called as not in a conflicting way. You should have debates, you should have arguments, you should have contradictory viewpoints. So in that sense, conflicts, no, it's a part and parcel of personal life or a professional life or an organizational life. And here we are just looking at, in case conflict crops up, it arises, how do we handle it? See, if there is a small, this one, no, you could mutually discuss, settle, and resolve. If it is slightly beyond our what you call resolution, you could talk to the, if it's in this one, the departmental manager, or if it's between faculty, you could talk to the principal or the dean, and also. And if it is bigger, no, even if the departmental head is unable to resolve it, then we take it to the let's say the HR manager, or no, and like that. No, it could be with arbitration and all that. So let me formally start now. So this is the little backdrop I gave about the importance of this one, conflict resolution. Now, What is conflict? So what comes to mind? It could be anything. It could be like anybody would like to say, no, the moment we tell conflict, it could be battle, fight. Anyone wants to, you can respond if the option is there. Otherwise, I'll continue. Anybody wants to say, what is your understanding, or what is your uh, thoughts that come to mind whenever we talk about this word called conflict? Hello. Okay, I'll continue. Now, the conflict, there are different, as I told you, battle and a clash, or ego clash, or no, there are different. This one, some of the commonly used terms associated with conflict are, see, a dispute. A dispute is a conflict. No, argument or a dispute. Then fight. No, there's a fight on some issue. It's a conflict. Battle is a conflict. Let's say between people, or between countries, or no, ideologies and all that. A quarrel, no, it's a simple type of battle, argument. Squabble is another word used to define conflict. Then discord, no, discord is some uneasiness, no, discordant note means there is some sort of disagreement. Then friction is, heat is generated, some the temperatures are flared up. They're all examples of conflict. Then strife is another word used to define conflict. Disagreement, I told you. Dissent, no, dissent is showing some opposition, or not agreeing to what is being discussed or mentioned. No, dissent. And or it's like opposition. Contradiction is the other view, no, just the opposite view, contradicting what is being said. So these were different this ones of conflict. Now let us see why it is important. No, see, sometimes it's like people live with these what do you call, you live with a problem. No, they tell, get it off your shoulder. You need to be free of that, like that. So conflict can ruin relationships. It can hurt the psychology of the people. And so therefore, why it is, and we'll be talking about different solutions to conflict. No, we would have most of us know about this win-win, win-lose, lose-win, and all that. So there are different approaches to conflict. So let's see what it is. Why? No, what is conflict, and what happens if it is not handled appropriately? Now,
Sir,
now,
excuse me, sir.
yeah,
The chat box is enabled, so people are responding on the chat box.
sure, sir. I'll just see 1
Okay.
second. Now, if I put slideshow, I'm not able to see the chat box.
No, it
That
will
was
be
my-
minimized. It may be on the top or bottom, sir.
Sure, sir. I'll do that. I'll do that. How do I do that? Chat. Okay. Rajesh, there's one message. I think, yeah, one Professor Prabhavati is asking to unmute us when required.
We have not given unmute option, sir, because some disturbance will be there on the
Okay.
background mainly. So they can respond on the chat box.
Okay. Now I'm just seeing, how do I keep the chat box? I'll see. I don't know if Dr. Rajesh can help me. When I'm going to my slideshow, it is getting disabled. I'm just seeing how to.
Sir, what you can do is, sir,
Yeah.
it is the right hand side of yours.
Yeah.
The chat. Okay. You can close there, sir. There will be an option for closing that window.
This one, Rajesh.
Yeah, that one. So
Okay.
there is one option for closing. You can close it, sir.
This one, is it? My screen, is it?
Yes, sir.
My PPT you're telling I can close?
No, not the screen, sir. Not the screen. Sir, you can say that there is no problem. We'll enable all the speakers or the participants to speak to you over phone. This one, sir, mic.
Yeah, no, I have no issue, but just now someone spoke to me telling that they were unmuted and all
Yeah,
that.
that's what, sir. That's what we are going to enable them. In case if there is any distortion, we'll just come back and then we'll.
Sure. So
Right.
now I'll go ahead, Rajesh. I'll
Yeah.
continue.
They can unmute themselves and then they can speak to you, sir.
Yeah. So I don't need to see the chat box, right?
Not required now, sir.
Sure. Sure, Rajesh. Thanks a lot. So, yeah. Now, the person who's carrying the conflict with them, we normally say he or she owns the problem. So the person who's negatively affected by this conflict or this dispute or this issue that has come up. So he is the person who's supposed to own the problem. Now, what is the owner's responsibility? So therefore, if I am being beset with this conflict, what is my responsibility? I'm owning this problem. My responsibility will be now primarily to find a way to resolve the problem, even if I am not the cause of it. Sometimes in relationships or in friendships, the communication breaks down for one of the most trivial reasons, and then we always expect the other person to revert back or feel sorry about it or be regretful, and then the stalemate continues. There's no removal of that cause, or there's no progress happening. So that is why it is very important to find a way to resolve the problem, even if you are not responsible or you're not the cause of the conflict. And there are two things. One is, this is not advisable, and what you should do. Sometimes we react, we become violent, we express, and we belittle and try to subvert the other person's this one. Because we go on one track, this one, one sided approach. We feel that we are always right, and all. That's not advisable. And advisable is, what is it that you need to do when such a situation has happened. The first one is, people tend to scream or shout at the top of their voice. Sometimes the tendency is, the louder you are, the more dominant you are, and your views are right, like that. You should not yell or scream or shout. Then refusing to change or compromise. Now, this is what I was telling. Being very rigid and inflexible should not be like that. There should be some approach of, okay, we'll dilute our this one. Let's see, compromise. This is what is advocated in the win-win approach to this one, handling conflict. And refusing to work out the conflict. Immediately you want a solution and it should be favorable to you. That should not be the approach. It is not at all advised. And calling names, or no, sometimes it becomes severe, especially ego takes a beating, and then people go to physical this one, no? Or if the negotiations are not favorable, you tend to walk out. You get annoyed, express your annoyance. Belittling is making the other person insulting, or trying to do that. So these are all things which you're not supposed to engage in case conflict arises. And what is advised is this thing. For negotiation. Negotiation is, you negotiate. There's a negotiated settlement is you talk it out, you discuss. If not now, let's say when two conflicting parties are there, the third party comes and tells you, relax, you let things cool down, then you discuss, you can talk it out, you can sort it out, like that. And then mediation is getting some intermediary or some arbitration, some third party or some neutral agencies coming in between and trying to speak on. It's like you'll be willing to communicate and confide into a third person more than the opposing or the opponent party, like that. And you should look at both sides. Supposing you have a viewpoint, you should put yourself, empathize, put yourself in, why is this person standing with this one? What are his constraints? What is his situation, environment? And no, in a professional this one, you need to look at it from both the perspectives. And you can see what is called as a win-win attitude. It's like, see, the first one, what we say not advisable, it's win-lose. I get the major victory, and I get the major share and the opponent tends to lose, and that shouldn't be the attitude. Wherever it is fair, it is necessary to look at a win-win. So both are benefited in that negotiation and in that conflict resolution mechanism. Okay. So when is a conflict positive? I was telling you about healthy, like I gave the example of inventory, and it is unavoidable, necessary, and all that. But likewise, I told you conflict is necessary and it has to be there, and only then improvements and corrective actions are going to take place in the workplace. So a conflict is positive when all these conflicts, both internal and interpersonal, are resolved using this win-win problem approach. Okay, win-win problem approach is very widely used. This one, where negotiation is positive, interactions are positive, and their conflicts are resolved very amicably. So it's satisfying and fulfilling to both the sides. So this is what every relationship will have conflicts at some point of time or the other. So it is necessary, like it as I told you, it could be between siblings, it could be colleagues, could be between faculty students, it could be employees, the supervisor or the managers and all that. So if we use the win-win approach, problems could be solved effectively, and it also enables in strengthening the relationship. Okay, but if we don't want to have a win-win approach, then the relationship will get destroyed. Okay, so that is what. Yeah, this is I took a Google image of you see all these three outcomes. One is the win-lose, then next is the lose-lose, and the third one is the win-win. So you see this. The win-lose, one side of the negotiation profits at the other's expense. So one side of the neck comes out ahead. So it's like in a boxing, knockout or no, well, there's only one winner. The other person is the loser. He doesn't get to be on the victory podium or so. Lose-lose is when neither side achieves any positive or desirable result. No, it's like in chess we say stalemate or no, talks have died, talks have failed. No, there's no. I'm not going to talk to this person. I'm not going to have any sort of what you call discussion or negotiation, and not at all possible. I won't. No, or we don't buy from this supplier, or we don't want this employee, or nothing to do. No, that's the end of like this. So they are. It's also called as a lose-lose. No, that neither side not achieving any desirable result is called as lose-lose. And win-win is the one which is the most widely recommended whenever there is this conflict happening. Here, what happens is the negotiators, that is, both the conflicting parties, find mutually beneficial common ground. So, therefore, what you see is both the sides are in a better position than they were. Let's say they started this approach of problem solving or conflict resolution, because you have seen from both perspectives, you are seeing it from their perspective. No, and I told you, empathizing, putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, and seeing where to draw the line. So you just combine these opinions, thoughts, and whatever you gain from the discussion, and then go forward. Okay. So now, what is win-win negotiation? Okay, I told you this is the win-win negotiation. It's a careful exploration of both, that is own position and that of the other, in order to find a mutually acceptable outcome that gives both as much benefit as possible. So if both of them walk away being happy, that is a example of win-win. So what they say is, in an ideal win-win situation, it is found that the other person wants what is being traded and that you are prepared to give what the other. This is what, no, it's a mutually agreeable type of scenario where everybody is content, and both the opposing and the defending party are convinced, and they walk away happy. Okay, so these are the two approaches for conflict resolution, which I'll be sorry dealing with. One is called as the 5 steps to a win-win solution approach, and the other one is called as the Thomas Kinman conflict mode instrument. Okay, so let's see the first one. They say whenever there is a conflict, it is better that you go for this 5 steps approach. So now, what are the 5 steps to this win-win solution? We know the benefits of win-win in an situation, and yeah, so this was propounded by 2 professors, Fisher and Uyuri, from the Harvard School of Law. They were the persons behind this, and these are the 5 steps for about how to get a win-win solution. So this is the approach they recommended. The first step is separate people from the problem. No, don't take it personal. No, sometimes we tell don't. There's no. Sometimes when we argue with our hello, hello. I think there's a disturbance. Could you kindly unmute? Hello.
So 1 second, sir. We'll see.
Yeah. Someone's mic is on. Hello. Can I continue?
Yeah, you can, sir.
Yeah, I'll do that. Sorry. So the first step is, they say separate the people from the problem. There should not be any personal. No, I don't like him, so therefore whatever he or she says, is not receptive. No, it's not going to be okay. Nothing like that. See, separate the personality from the problem. That's the first thing. And the second one is focusing on interests, not on positions. What is primarily required out of this particular, let us say, this issue? No, we are looking at the organizational. I'll give you numerous examples when I come to that. See, something like the departmental head, or the manager has an agenda. He has a target. Now you also have sometimes, prioritizing. No, it is to the higher up, and then it should not be like, okay, I'll do what is blatantly wrong because of my position. It should not be like that. Focus on the common ground, focus on the interests and not on the positions. For each one, I'll give you examples. Then invent options for mutual gain. This is what, see, here we talk about brainstorming. Supposing there is an issue, let us say there is a traffic congestion at a point, then you talk to various people who are commuting on that road or making use of that particular junction. No, you talk to the nearby traffic constable, you talk to the vendors and shopkeepers in that area or institutions that are there. You're definitely going to get a lot of inputs. They might tell you when the crowd gathers, when is peak traffic and when is lean traffic, which are the days it is there, and like that. No, you get some inputs for your decision making. So there is this brainstorming exercise. I'll come to that brainstorming when I talk about this. So it's a very widely used approach, wherein you get different approaches, different ideas, different alternatives, and then you can work out on the most viable and the most economical solution for that. So that is what, invent options for mutual gain. I mean, you see, what are the different ways by which both parties are benefited? And then always use objective criteria. See, something like when we tell, the turnover is high. No, it's better to know how much. I'm talking about employee turnover. No, is it 5% or 10% or 20%? There is turnover. But if it is lesser than the industry average, it is not alarming. I mean, you need to work on it, but it is always say something like breakdown or the breakdown percentage is so much or the scrap percentage is 2% or what is your target. So whenever you go for this, no, especially in organizational, I told you that when we talk about point to interests and positions and all that, so we should know where we are failing. And if you have this, okay, we are missing the bus, we are missing the whole point, then that is when you'll be able to negotiate more effectively. So always have metrics, no, objective criteria. And then the next one is called as knowing your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So if there is a negotiation and you know, okay, you have three proposals. One is like this, but you know it's not going to suffice. It is not going to be futile. No, this you might be right. You must be having all the necessary backup information and the data and statistics. But you know, let's say it's like a beautiful project. No, you give a proposal and you want it to be implemented, but it involves cost of let's say investment, and it was not earmarked in the previous year's budget for the current year. And supposing the investment needed for that is on the higher side, then it is not going to happen. So therefore, how do you do it? Now, what is your best alternative? No, that's what is called as your knowing your BATNA. That is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. I'll do each of this slowly, step by step, and so that you're able to understand better. See, the first one, separating the people from the problem, it says like this. See, avoid identifying the other person as a opponent. Okay, sometimes you get the best ideas from no the least this one. No, it's like you know, whenever you know, in forecasting you must have thought of, you would have discussed forecasting is to know what is the demand for the coming period, upcoming period. But there are different avenues. One, you could talk to market research, or you could talk to the senior executives. And then there is one more approach, it's called as the grassroots. So sometimes what people think, okay, this guy only knows to do servicing and he's just a mechanic. Now, what is it? But even for designing, or let us say for automotive companies, take a lot of opinions from the mechanics. They are at the grassroots because they'll be giving you information on the what you call that reliability, durability of components, and which component of which engine or which company is good. So you can take inputs from them. That is okay, grassroots. Now the same thing. No, you know, the opponent also would be the other person will have views and ideas, and maybe they are right. But if you'll get this input only when you avoid identifying them as the opponent. Okay, be sure to focus on the issue at hand and try to ignore personality differences. Just because you don't like that person's appearance or his personality or his cultural background or like this, no, ethnicity or no, don't do that. So be sure to focus on the issue at hand and ignore these personality differences. This is the first thing, okay, separating people from the problem. And then whenever you do this, no, is he tells be aware of three factors whenever you do this, separating people from the problem. One is the perception, the second is the emotion, and the third is the communication. See, sometimes that's what, no, perception is no, it's like premeditated. It could be okay, oh, uh, let's say in a country like Philippines or Bangladesh, they'll do only low cost. They don't have innovative ideas. They don't have creative ideas. It is not so. Now, if you look at how the world is progressing, and the billionaires were only from one or two countries. Now they're from different parts of the world. Original ideas, see, like Jack Ma of China, or some the biggest businessmen. No, like the way our business people, like. Uh, this Premji or Narayan Murthy or Ambani's or Adani's, how they have become global and all that. No, it's like anybody can. There should be a misconception or wrong perception that okay, like this is same thing. No, on an individual, this perception shouldn't influence our this, and likewise emotion and communication. Now, what is perception? Putting yourself in their shoes so that you perceive it from that angle, so that you're better place to see common ground or compromise. Okay, so that's about the perception. Now, this because see, the perception is that you are convinced that your position is fair, your thought is reasonable, and your viewpoint is right, but it is same no from the other perspective. So that person also will think the same, that his position is fair, his argument is right and reasonable. So always put yourself in their shoes. That's about the perception part. And the next is emotions. You need to examine and acknowledge your emotions and ask yourself why you feel the way. No, supposing I react. No, it's like this environment. The moment I get into this crowd, let's say you are in a organization where you're working in projects and teams and all that. Supposing you come across a team that was hostile to you, and you get unnerved and you get disturbed and like that. So try to think of why am I getting excited and agitated and like this. Is it because this environment? Well, let me separate this from the this one, no, and like that. So examine and acknowledge your emotions and ask yourself, introspect, why do you feel the way you do? Example, see now, a previous bad experience in a negotiation could be affecting your behavior in this one. Let us say you go to a famous or a popular commercial area. You have bought some electronic device, something like television or so. So somehow at the point of buying, you are very much convinced and influenced by the sales team and the sales personnel there, and you took it home. But then you found that, let's say it is in Jayanagar or Brigade Road or Commercial Street somewhere, where let's say a lot of electrical appliances stores are there. You buy that television, go home, and then you find that there are some failures. No, it is not durable, and some component failure has happened. Now, this shouldn't influence you. Like you shouldn't. Oh, all these dealers on this particular area are fake, or they don't have reliable this one. No, this is what it is telling. We are also justified. Okay, so if I go in a particular travels, let's say I'm traveling to Coorg or Mysore in Volvo buses, I can take a KSRTC, or I can take that BRL and what is that? SRS or any one of this. Supposing in one of them I once encountered a bad experience, I shouldn't tell okay, it's always like that. That's what they say. No, look at it beyond your personal experience, which might have been bad. And the next part is the communication. Sometimes no, the way we communicate matters a lot, and it has to be clear and precise. It should avoid misunderstanding. Sometimes you want to convey something, and something that no, the people who are very good in communication are very effective in communicating and conveying their thoughts and their objectives. It's a very important aspect. You need to make sure that the communication is very clear and precise. So that's what. No, when they say use active listening techniques. So whenever you're listening, no, you convey to the speaker that you're listening, and allowing each person to finish before you respond. Sometimes what happens is you have some thoughts, you want to express it, and before you feel no, I might forget what I want to say, and therefore you interrupt that person, and randomly neither do you listen to what they are expressing or communicating, nor do you give them an opportunity to listen to what you wanted to. So all this happens because you are not separated the people from the problem. So when you're listening to the other person, when they're expressing or they're projecting or they're presenting it via PPT or something, it's very important that you do it very objectively. No, it should not be subjective or situational. So this is the first thing whenever you do this in the 5-step process, separating the people from the problem. The second one is focus on interests and not positions. So here I was telling you about how there could be a disparity or a disorientation in the expectations of the conflicting parties. So now this is true. There are real and valid differences behind conflicting positions. No, I perceive something, so therefore I do it. And so I take a very simple example of say you are a person who strongly believes that people shouldn't go for begging or no seeking alms. Why rather they should work and this one. Whereas the other person might think, no, see, somebody it is helpless, is desperate. The last option is choosing this as a way of living. So you want to be charitable, you want to be helpful in whatever, generous in whatever. No, you just let him have a meal today. Let me, the whatever I'm giving him should make him happy for today at least. And the other person feels, no, no, because of my belief. No, because we encourage this only, this is happening. It is increasing and all that. So, likewise, no, within the organization also, I told you, each person is driven by, let us say, the overall the top management wants increased sales and increased profits because they need to convince the shareholders and stockholders, and they need to convince everybody. Whereas the other one, the somebody in the marketing or in the sales team would be looking at winning customers by giving them the right thing. And if you push too much and if there are customer complaints and all that, they are answerable and they are responsible and they have to face the music. So they will have a different approach like that. So this is what you should focus on, the common ground, on the interests. Here, a viewpoint is influenced by many factors, such as values, beliefs, status, responsibilities, and cultural background. So something like, as faculty, we need to be responsible. We need to be living our lifestyle, because we are role models for the students also. Okay, so how do we do it? So we know, okay, my responsibility this is what I should do and what I should not do. And so therefore, likewise, our own lifestyle, our own values, our own belief can influence our viewpoints. So whenever you try to negotiate, in this particular point, try to keep the conversation courteous and avoid attributing blame. So attributing blame, okay, this is because of your this one, your approach, and no, you feel this person's lifestyle, belief, status, and it's not the right one, and so that's why. No, don't do that. And once everyone knows that their interests have been considered, they are more likely to be receptive to different points of view. So you give time, you listen to that person. Let us say between the manager and the subordinate or the vice president of the company and someone down the line, you listen. Let's say they have expressed this one, we could increase sales by this approach or so. You don't strike it down. You try to understand. You make points. Okay, that's a valuable this one. Maybe we cannot implement it now. Maybe we can implement it later, like that. No, you think of. So this is what I was telling you. The example, if you are negotiating, let us say you're the manager of a function or a unit, you're negotiating with your boss to get more resources for your team, but you also try to empathize. See, he cannot get resources because top management is telling you have to reduce the cost. This usually happens during this appraisal period, no? When somebody wants to get promoted. Now the manager has got is operating under some constraints. Let us say the top management says there's a word they use in finance. It's called austerity. AUSTERE, austerity measure. Sometimes we see, no, because of uh, some lot of costs or because of so many issues, the top officials, like government officials, they'll fly economy or they stay in economy accommodation and all to reduce the cost. That's called austerity. This unnecessary travel is reduced. Or TCS as a company might tell if their growth is not as per projected, this one, they might tell all their executives to minimize or reduce unnecessary travel or unnecessary luxury trips and all that, so that it reduces the overall cost to the company, like that. So if the top management wants no, we'll not promote, because promotion goes with higher CTC, isn't it? You get promoted, your basic DA, all that goes up. So they would tell, okay, this time we'll freeze the promotions. Only 2% of the employees need to be promoted. But you are one of them who are expecting a promotion in your unit. But then you feel it is right, but the manager is helpless. Your boss is helpless. He tells, I mean, he has to operate within the corporate or the top management directive. So you're able to get this. This is what is called as yeah, the difference here. So you focus on the interest. So what do you do? I mean, you try to negotiate with the boss and see how else he can accommodate you. If not now, can he do it in the subsequent period when the policy of the company has been frozen, like that. Yeah, so that is what. If you look beyond your two positions, you that let's say you find that you have a common interest. So you look at okay, this is what is going to improve the team's productivity, and it is beneficial if the productivity. Let's say they have some incentives for productivity improvement or some rewards. You will be a beneficiary of that. Like that. And then next is inventing. Here is what, no, when I'll be talking about the inventing options for mutual gain. You see, sometimes we are tied up, no, let's say that the routine, and every day we think, no, we are not able to think out of the box, that lateral thinking, which, you know, we go the, okay, this problem has to be go approached, we should be assertive in this scenario. As a faculty, I should be delivering, I should not be listening. If that mindset is like that, you're not going to get any inputs at all from the other side. So this is very important, inventing options. So now here what happens is, you know, the boss or the subordinate or the conflicting parties, they have come to stage one, separating that people from the problem, no, and the second one we saw, no, that is focusing on interest. So after that, you should invent the options for mutual gain. That means now by this time each party will have a better understanding of no, both the sides' interests, and a solution might be obvious. Okay, this solution should be worked out in this angle, and so on. So you may be on the verge of agreement also, because now you have understood each other better. Or if not, if you are not on the point of agreement, that okay, we are understanding each views, there is a possibility. If not now, we could negotiate further, and new position may exist, and you can use the negotiation process to explore these options. No, that's what. In case this is an example, if you have identified increased productivity, like the previous one, no, where you expected promotion and the boss is unable to do it because of the management policy not to give promotions in this particular period. Let us say it's frozen for 6 months or 1 year. Then you work on this one, increased productivity as a mutual interest. But then again, now the issue is that was your first option. No, productivity improvement, investment in let us say you are having a conventional dot matrix printer, and it's everyone knows the laser jet or the desk jet prints faster and all that. So you feel 60 pages per minute can be done, whereas the dot matrix is doing only 20 pages or 30 pages per minute. Or if you get a person in this particular function, you could no, it'll improvise the particular work environment. But then they're not able to do that. But then what you could do is keep another option. No, can we train existing people, or can we reassess, revisit the existing work practices, or could training be rendered? Okay, if we cannot hire a new person in this particular, let us say, artificial intelligence or business analytics, no, you feel that will boost the image of the company, and it is not happening. Then you look at the other ones I told you, no? Reassess the working practices, explore opportunities for training your people so that they are more well versed in their area of what you call dominance or expertise, and also look at other ways to increase the efficiency. Normally, when companies have this is called growth period is when they're doing very well, and the other one is in the recession period or lean period when the growth is not appropriate. Then what do? They they look at, okay, how to reduce the cost. One is sales is not increasing, growth is not happening, so you try to reduce the cost. You try to I told you various ways of no cost effective methods, something like you feel the number of paper that is being printed, or A4 sheets in the organization as so many lakhs of pages per this one, then you try to do. No, there are examples you would have seen about how General Electric, GE, and all these big organizations, they are into lighting and other tech-related areas. They have reduced cost by changing the approach of procurement of pen. Let's say they are buying these ballpoint pens for their organizational employees, staff, that used to be millions of dollars per annum. And then there were some approaches of how to do the vendor identification management and all that. And then later on they realized no, we could have adopted some other method, and they were able to save huge this reduction in cost. So like that, lean periods are when you focus on training your employees, or looking at this one I told you, no, looking at brainstorm as many ideas as you can to find a solution to the problem. Okay, you ask opinion from different people. See, especially in this market survey and market research, no? Especially in this telecom or the two-wheelers and all, no? The best possible audience is youth, people in the campus, or teenagers or adolescents. You talk to them. I mean, they'll be expressing what is needed, or they'll have these creative thoughts flowing in them. So you try to address them and then work on those inputs that they give. Earlier, say like when we were in college and all, no, I'm telling you, the early 80s and all, when we go for cinema, I have seen these marketing companies of motorcycles. That is the time this 100cc bikes became popular. The TVS Suzuki and Hero Honda, and then Kawasaki Bajaj and Rajdut Yamaha. All these tie-ups happened at that time. You'll be knowing that in the early 80s. And what they do is when we go to cinema theaters, no, that time we stand in line. There'll be limited capacity. No, the theater has got 100 seats or 200 seats. They'll issue those seats tickets in the counter. We'll be standing. So we won't know who's getting. So more than the capacity, 300, 400 people, mostly youngsters only will go to the, of course, others also do come, but the major chunk of the theater crowd is youngsters only. So when we stand there, these guys come, these marketing survey executives of these companies, motorcycle companies, they'll come with a questionnaire, one page, no, flipped on both sides, front and back, some questions. Now, what do you look for? Is it capacity, the cubic cc, no, or is it the mileage, or is it the resale value? What are the features you would like? What is the inclination of the seat? How should be the steering handle and all that, no? So most of the people are like, okay, anyway, we are standing in the line. That's a nice approach actually. So they get input. So different people give different inputs, and so like that. So when they do this, no, this is what it enables them to come with some creative ideas. So whenever you do brainstorming, you be receptive to all suggestions, then develop the most promising ones into new proposals that you can bring to the negotiating table. Okay, now I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, yeah, some of you might be knowing what value management or the value engineering concept is. Value is you review or revisit. Now, let us say, I told you, so one way of reducing the cost is austerity. Another one is value engineering. That is, value engineering invariably looks at substitution. You know, some of these materials like nylon, Teflon, and all, no, they were made in the lab when there was a serious shortage of metals during wartime, during that Second World War, no, 1939 to 1945. So they were forced to create, okay, let's make this artificially. Can we do this different, which is like that? So the high temperature resistant materials and all were created. I gave the example of nylon, Teflon, and all. Now, this concept was given by a person called L.D. Miles. Now, what they look at is, can this function be served with a different material? Can they substitute material which is of a lesser material? Can we do it like this? This material is being consumed in bulk. So what is the alternative? Like that. So it should serve the function, but you should be able to reduce the cost. So value engineering is that. Now my purpose is my pen, it should be, I should write. But then you have the primary function is it should write, isn't it? But then if I'm looking at these what you call stylish pens and exotic pens like these Parker pens and all, the body of the pen itself is made of nice metal and it doesn't get rusted. You can use it for a longer period of time. The ink will not leak, smudge and all that. So they are all the secondary functions. Now value looks at very widely used method in value is the brainstorming. So you want to reduce the input cost. Let us say the management has got the total cost as labor cost, power cost, material cost, your profits and overheads and all that. So they want to reduce the input cost of materials, look from various suppliers. And then can you replace this particular component with an alternate substitute this one? And so like that. So they do this brainstorming. And you take all the concerned people in the brainstorming. Supposing you're looking at a marketing issue or a sales issue or a quality issue, you call the concerned people. Okay, who's the operator, who's the employee, who's the executive, who's the manager, get some customers' input. No, in that related, you get your suppliers, vendors' input, and then you draw the line. So now I'll give you a very simple example. You all know this gem clip, no? Gem clip is it is a very widely used example in the value exercise. Gem clip is that paper clip. Okay, now they say, you know, they wanted different multiple uses for the gem clip, and therefore they asked in a brainstorming exercise, they asked various people, what are the various uses of the gem clip? How else can it be used? So they got some ideas. I'm just, some of you might have tried this in your respective classes or in your respective organizations. Can we just have this one? I'll anyway, I think I've spoken one-sided for a long time. Can anyone tell me? Can you tell me this? Yeah, anyone wants to?
Yeah, participants, kindly
Yeah,
put your
participants.
observations in the chat box.
See, I was just trying to tell you what are the see, there is a two-word definition. No, in value engineering, there is a two-word definition. The primary function. There is a primary function and a secondary function. Something like you take a hammer. What is the primary function? Is to drive home the nail, to drive the nail, drive nail inside. But you can also use an hammer to flatten things. Let's say there's a sheet which is become concave or convex. You can also use it for that. No, that's the secondary function. So primary is what it is and secondary. So now we'll not see primary, secondary. I was just asking you, what are the various uses that you perceive for a gem clip? Gem clip, I told you, is the paper clip. Okay, would anyone like to tell me that? Anyone? I think Dr. Rajesh has enabled that option. If you want to unmute your mic and say also, you can say.
As a type in.
Type in, very good. Okay, I'm not able to see who said that.
Arijit Gupta from West Bengal.
Oh, very good, sir. Yes, Mr. Gupta, very good. That's good. See, you can use it as a type in. Yeah. Anyone else?
There is one in the chat box, sir. It says
Yeah.
paper also.
I'll just see, Rajesh. Paper holder, very good. This is Bahubali Gedugol, very good. It's a paper holder. Yeah, and Amrita also, a note can be attached while holding the paper together. Very good. Okay. I'll take one or two and then I'll continue. One or two more viewpoints.
Diaper pin
Uh,
for infants.
oh, very good, sir. Okay. They'll use that. Good. I've seen for holding the diapers for children. That is there. Sometimes, yeah.
So also it can be used to when any plastic wrapper is opened, you can
Yeah.
just clip it
Yes.
closer using that.
Yes, madam. You're right. Very good. So this is what happens. No, I thank all of you for giving different perspectives. Now you see, just like one professor told about the type in, you can use it if you put multiple gem clips. No, you wear it as a bracelet. You can wear it as a necklace. And
Sir, I have a unique application, sir.
yeah, Dr. Rajesh, please tell.
Thank you, sir. It can also be used as, to dig your ears.
Yeah, good. I get students telling this. There is something called, see, when we think always lateral, no, I mean, this is a lateral, this one. See, sometimes when, let's say, you're not able to dig your ears, it's a good example cited by Dr. Rajesh. People, you see, they put that, it's not advisable. Let's say your spouse or someone says, hey, why are you putting that gem clip into your ears? Even nobody is watching, no, we try to make use of it. The other examples are, the old cassettes were there, songs, audio cassettes and all. When we used to listen music with that cassette player, if that spool of that cassette, sometimes the tape cuts, we'll take a gem clip, we'll flatten it, and let's say screwdriver is not around, we'll open it with that. So that's also a use. Okay, like Dr. Rajesh says, one more, which is not this one, we shouldn't mention this example in the open is sometimes people see your lock, you should open. Somebody else wants to open your lock, they say they make use of this gem clip. Or sometimes people, they want to make use of, like you're traveling in a very worrisome or boring journey in train from you don't have friends or any accomplices with you. So then what people do, they'll take that gem clip and they'll start writing. And they're all not supposed activities. Earlier when movies are not good, people used to tear the seats. So if you don't have, you don't like the movie, they'll tear the seat using this opened gem clip. But otherwise, the right examples are like tie clip, the ear clip, and there's company called Staples which makes these gem clips and all. You see, they have an assortment of this one, like one professor mentioned about how it's used to attach a note or attach the diaper. This one, no, you tie clip and all that. You have different colors. A box, Staples, the shop, if you go, you have an assortment of this one. So probably they realized the gem clip, no, it'll have like ornamental colors, different colors and all that. So one way is, why should we do it like this? Why not in a different way? And you get the input. So this all happens because of, now let's say they say this exercise for the gem clip, they got some 140 suggestions by people, and then they were able to downsize it. Some is viable, some is okay. Okay, this all we can do as a company because of our limitations. We'll be able to do so much. We'll not be able to include all these ideas. Like that, no, that's how this brainstorming helps. Okay, I thank everyone for giving this ones. I'll continue now. So yeah, this is the third option, and the fourth one, yeah, this is not the fourth one. This is just about brainstorming. Whenever you brainstorm, no, the person who's facilitating the brainstorming activity, he or she needs to elicit or extract maximum responses from the people. There's nothing like, you don't discourage. Now, if I tell in the class, all of you tell me what is your opinion on this. They should all be able to give their response. You don't tell, no, this is wrong, this is negative, this is not right, this is not related, this is unrelated. You never make any comments. You take all the suggestions. Likewise, here, no, you brainstorm from the conflicting parties, all the needs. And then let's say this is a simple one. The two examples given is a cake cutting exercise. So you are in charge of a birthday party for 4 children. You have one cake and you need to cut it in 4 equal parts. So with your friend or your spouse, you just try to see how best it could be. So you can cut it in 4 squares, or you could cut it into 4 rectangles, which is on the shorter side, or the rectangle could be on the longer side, or you can cut 2 diagonals and you get 4 pieces which are triangles. And then they are different. What else can you think of? You can think of one half cut into 2 squares, and the other half you can cut into like 2 triangles also. So these are different, this one, isn't it? Or again, you might see small kids and big kids. So the big kids you might be willing to give bigger piece and like that. So this is this one. No? They say brainstorm so that both are at ease. So the other person should know this guy took a unilateral decision and he cut it in a way which was not right. Shouldn't be happening. And the other one is car sharing solution. Now, let's say you and your spouse have one car. You need to go to a meeting tonight, and your spouse wants to visit a friend of yours. How many solutions can you come up with? Just can you think about any 2 suggestions I'll take from you? Let us say you and your wife, or both, you have one car. She wants to meet her friend, and you want to go to a meeting. Let's say it's a official meeting. The company has scheduled outside in the evening. What do you think of? Can anyone tell me?
Drop her at the time of going to the meeting.
Oh, excellent, sir. Excellent. That
and
is,
pick
it
up
will
her.
serve. Yeah. See, this is a good one. You plan your timing, and then you go and you tell that you drop your spouse at a friend's place, finish your meeting, and you intimate to her that you will pick her up on the way. Good. Yeah. Any other opinion? See, definitely you won't tell no. You will not. Don't meet your friend today. My company is meeting is more important, isn't it? We'll try to look at some amicable solution. So even if the other one is a choice, you will not execute that, isn't it? First is you drop her and you go.
Or
Another
otherwise,
one,
she can drop you and go.
so good, ma'am. That is also a very good
Yeah.
suggestion. She can also drop and
Yeah, she can
good.
take the car and come back.
Very good, very good. That is also good. And there's 2
That's a-
suggestions. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, so that's what I was reading. Let her take the car, you go by cab.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, yeah.
This is given by Sukada Dambe, telling let her take the car, you go by the cab. And yeah, and the other one is given by Amrita, telling that you plan the destination of meeting nearer to the office. So there are different alternatives. So like when you involve, especially in collective bargaining, when you involve the concerned people, okay, what is your opinion? No, that's how it helps. So mutually, it should be agreeable. I
Or
don't know.
the time, or both people can be called at the same place, sir.
Yeah, that is also. So where your meeting is there, probably you could ask your friend also to come to that. That's also a very good idea. So whenever you do this, no, it's we all have our experiences, most of us. So like, see, I'm talking in the early 90s. There's some disturbance. See, in the early 90s, when I got married, I remember I worked in this company called Ashok Leyland, where, like Dr. Rajesh mentioned. I'm telling how important it is to take mutually, what do you call, conclusive, or no, you take a mutual this one. I was very happy for my anniversary. I wanted to present my wife a watch. So, you know, in that Osur, all these companies are there: Hindustan Motors, Titan, Ashok Leyland, TVS, and all that. So, once I took permission from my boss on our anniversary day, I took a watch, a ladies' dial watch from Titan. Nice dial it was. I was very happy. So I gave, she didn't like it. She said, what is this dial? Like that. So that's what, no, in these small things. No, I mean, you could have asked me one word. I wanted to be a pleasant surprise, and she was wearing it, of course, not always. Okay, those days watch wearing was a trend actually, like, but then that's what. If I had asked her one word, I could ask her, "Well, these are the dials that are here. Which one would you prefer?" No, like that. So as all of you said, you can take uh, this one, mutually agreeable. This one, very good. So therefore, that's important. Whenever you brainstorm, I told you, why is it not? Yeah, cake cutting exercise, and this one I told you now. Good. And then the fourth step is using objective criteria. So here I told you about the metrics and those ratios, and all of which enable you to, let's say, your customer satisfaction survey is at a particular level. You are doing from 1 to 10, and you are on 7 or 8. You want it to be 9. So what is it that you need to do? So all your discussions and negotiations will be based on that. So always have this objective criteria. I told you about maintenance, about scrap, and all that. So different underlying needs, no, can cause people to interpret facts differently. That could be because of interest, or opinions, or the goals, the aspirations of the individuals. Then what happens is this, having this different underlying leads. I like music very much. I like cricket very much. I like investing in stocks differently. So this leads to select only those facts that support the particular viewpoints. My decisions or my arguments are based on my likes and my viewpoints. So example, during an interdepartmental negotiation in the company about the launch date of a new product, no, you are very convinced that you should rush to the market as soon as possible is the best option. But what happens is, if you are like this, no, you'll not listen to uh, the others. No, you feel you're absolutely convinced, no, this has to be done immediately. And if somebody tells, no, we'll not do it now, we'll launch it during the festival time or when there is a peak season, you're not going to listen to valid opinions also. Your willingness to listen may become lessen. So what you need to do is, if there's some evidence to support this here with the marketing data, that uh, let's say, if you are able to say, if you are able to delay the launch later, like I told you, it's a national holiday, or no, we talk about that big billion sale and all that. No? It would be good for sales in the longer term. It would give, like, people who don't want to buy also might buy because the discounts are very attractive and all that. So then what happens is, it gives the marketing team, they also have time. No, you feel this product has to be launched and put pressure on the marketing team. You don't do that. You give them ample time, telling that if it can coincide with this particular holiday, something like Dasara holidays or Puja holidays, or no, like that, during October is the peak season. We launch it somewhere at that time, and then they also have adequate time. Let's say if I'm talking of September second week, they have another 2-3 weeks to plan for this and go out properly and launch the right ad and all that. So therefore, that is what you look at, these objective criteria. No, it could be including such as legal standard, market value, mission statement, or all your contract terms with all your supply chain partners. And agreeing on standards demonstrate shared values and commitment to reaching an agreement. So there is no clash of what you call priorities and all that, because you're looking at the longer this one. You're looking at the sales value or like that. And the fifth one is called as the knowing your partner, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So here we are talking about, no, I gave you in the beginning. So you have a fallback option. Okay, this is my first one, and this will be my second one. So this is your favored fallback option if you can't get everything that you want. No, so far we were discussing about that only. This is not the same as bottom line, which is a fixed portion that can limit your option and may prevent you from discovering a new course of action. No, you look at it from this, okay, like the marketing one. No, I'll do it now. It has to be done now. No, you have some alternative. This one, okay. If this doesn't happen, what else should I do? Just like when we talked about that resources usage with the manager. No, you see how best you can. Okay, you convince this one with a agreeable option, which is mutually beneficial. So instead, think through what might happen if the negotiation doesn't achieve your desired result, and you look at, okay, how do I put it? Can I put it in a different way? Now, people who are indulging in sales and all, no, they'll know. They'll see sometimes the most rigid consumer, no, they'll be able to convince because they'll go with different approaches. So they'll not go with one common approach like that. So evaluate these alternatives, and at the end of the process, the most promising alternative solution is your BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay, good. So that is what in the example, if you start with the bottom line of the negotiation of two extra departmental staff members, you wanted two people and the company refuses. No, we cannot hire. We don't have the budget this year. We are not going to hire. The negotiation will fall at the first hurdle. So therefore, if you are looking at the best alternative, what you will do is, okay, can we train some people or can we get some updated software? So therefore, we will be, this should be your second this one, and it might be approachable and agreeable to your superiors or to your bosses. So this is so these are the 5 steps we saw of the 5-step process. Okay, good. Now, once you do this, you look at the alternative solutions. You have, let's say, more than one proposal. You see what is the best one, what will work, does it meet the demands of the people, or are there more problems likely after the implementation of this one? And just don't accept solution. Okay, we have to finish off this. Don't do it quickly, for the sake of speed. There's some sort of patience is needed, and look at the best solution. See what is the best solution, and here find solutions that are mutually acceptable to both. And if agreement seems difficult, summarize the areas of agreement and restate the needs and look for new solutions. Okay, and see that both are committed to the solution. Because of time pressure, we agreed, we were not initially agreeable. That shouldn't be the expression and all that. Okay, now once you have done this, solution is done to a conflict and all, it's very important to do the follow-up of the whatever solution was offered. It's called follow-up evaluation. Carry out the agreed method, and you wait to see if the conflicts are resolved. And if the agreed solution didn't work, this was the solution and it was not executable, it was not viable. So therefore, what you should realize is the solution has failed, not the person, and therefore you try to renegotiate and see that the solution is working for both the parties concerned. Okay. Now, what are the results? The benefits of win-win solution is they're generally more creative because you have done this brainstorming, you have looked at both perspectives, you are looking at it from all the angles, and there is that innate need for taking responsibility to help everyone. There's a feeling of mutual respect, and each time a conflict is resolved, the mutual respect is always enhanced or it grows deeper. Okay. Now, I'll quickly go into the second model. This is called as the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument. You can see there are two coordinates, x-axis and the y-axis. So here it talks about cooperativeness. There are two extremes. One is uncooperative and the other is cooperative. And the other one is assertiveness. One is being assertive and one is being not assertive or unassertive. So whenever there's a conflict, I think Radha Halagani is having yeah, ma'am, you can. Hello? You want to say something? Radha Halagani? Okay. Shall I continue then? Okay. Now, the first is called competing then collaborating, compromising approach, avoiding approach, and the accommodating approach. Now, these are the 5 approaches of the Thomas Kilmann. They made this, Thomas and Kilmann made this, this whenever there's a conflict, what are the approaches that you see? When there's a conflict, the first is competing. That means the one party is very assertive and uncooperative. Okay, that is this one. The second one is accommodating, which is cooperative and less assertive. And the third is avoiding. Okay, yeah, tantene beda. I don't want to be in any conflict. I'll just avoid. I'll go away from the scene of conflict. Then the fourth one is collaborating, where there is assertiveness as well as cooperation. And somewhere in the middle of this one is called as the compromising. Okay, that is you're assertive and less assertive. It's a mix of both, and you're not uncooperative nor you're full, but you've made a compromise. Now let's see each one. I'm putting that image on all the slides so that you will be able to relate it. The competing approach, we say, is the people who take the competing approach are usually resolute in what they believe and want. That means they are convinced that their viewpoint is absolutely right. They are the right this one. So now this operates from a position of power, that is expertise or strength. Now I know better. I'm the captain. I'm let's say Virat Kohli. I'm an exceptional player. I know what is best for the team. I know how to change the batting order. I know when I take the toss whether to take batting or bowling. I'm not going to consult anybody. No, it's not that. You see, Kohli might consult his other like Rahane or Rohit Sharma and all that. Okay, so these are all the other players in the team, or he might talk to his manager, or he might talk to his coach. What is the best decision to take? So otherwise, operating from a position of power, expertise, or strength, this approach is useful in an emergency. Okay, he is the best person. His views are valid. He knows what to do. When an immediate decision needs to be made, this approach is fine. However, misuse of this style can suppress feedback, disempower stuff. No, the views are not taken. The others are not able to give their thoughts or their opinions. And it prevents learning also for the self. It demonstrates assertiveness, but offers no cooperativeness. See, something like some examples are, see, the supervisor, the supervisor thinks that, let us say they're working in a product line or in an assembly line. So how he allocates the resources, how he schedules the work, it's all his priority and he knows best. The boss's decision is buck stops here. The decisions are final. And I know best. Do as you are told. No, I've been given this responsibility. This is how we are going to do it. No, that is what. So you see, this is a very competing approach here, where the assertiveness is on the higher side and cooperativeness is on the lower side. No, you're not okay. There's a conflict, but yeah, I say the final word like that. Then the next is the accommodating approach, and here it's low on assertiveness as we see, but high on cooperation. The thing is, this is used by managers who want to appear reasonable in their decision making. See, something like you see in a newspaper office, or you see in ad agency or a creative this one, no, where they make all these creative the jingles and all they say. Now here, you cannot have a person acting like a boss, something like a director of a cinema. No, he takes everybody along. He needs everybody, right from the cinematographer to the photographer to the lighting person, to everybody, to the makeup person. Everybody has to give their 100% to make that particular this one effective. Likewise, in a newspaper office or a television entertainment channel office, or a television news office, anywhere, or somebody who gives these creative ideas, no, like this. Whereas, or if you go to of these fast food joints and all, no, there's no boss who sits in ivory tower and shows his bossism around. No, he comes down. He's friendly with everybody. They also call him by name and that. So in such environments, it's fine. So they want to be, to be seen as accommodating. Yeah, this approach, they say to demonstrate as peacemakers, they're willing to yield wherever possible. Like you go ask your boss, I want to apply leave tomorrow. He tells, okay, fine, we'll make up later when you come back. Now, if it was a competing approach, why do you want to put leave? No, it is not allowed. I decide. You tell me. You should have told me 1 week back, like that. No, that's the difference between competing and accommodating approach. But what is the drawback is that too much accommodation and no, you feel the person is weak, indecisive, and not willing to accept change. So in a changed environment, if you are very much or a situation which always warrants change, if you are very accommodative, then the change is not going to be happening. Examples are the person who has an accommodating approach, you'll tell you first. No, you go in. You first. What is your outcome? What is your, like, there's a conflict. What is it that you want? Okay, let's do it like this. It's like that lose-win outcome we saw, no? It's that. And I agree with you. These are some of the expressions or the scenarios that is expected in an approach which is accommodating. And then the next one is the avoiding approach. The avoiding approach is, yeah, let's say the managers who don't want to handle conflict are likely to avoid the conflict altogether. Something like, see, as an individual, you don't want a promotion. See, normally, especially in banking jobs and certain jobs, promotion goes with a transfer. You don't want transfer, or you don't like meetings. You don't like to be part of the top level committee meetings or executive meetings. So you don't want to get promoted. I want to be like this only. If I go to senior manager level, I'll be involved in all these things, which I don't like. So I'll stay away from performance. I'll do what minimum work is necessary, and then I'll stay away. So this approach dismisses the manager's own concerns and those of the other individual, leaving the conflict unresolved. So if there's a conflict, this is what happens. It is like, okay, let time heal the problem. I'll not get into it like that. It will become murkier or it will become more complex and complicated. So okay, this problem has come, just like it came, hope it goes away. No, I don't want to indulge in that. So this approach is useful when you want to solve it at a later time, or if you try to get into it, it will lead to more threatening this one. It becomes more severe. No, so then it's fine. Better I'll not leave it. Something like when accidents happen on the road, one fear people have is, if you want to be helpful, you want to be a good Samaritan, you want to take that person to the hospital, then you have to foot the bill. And now with this COVID, this one and all, no, they expect you to be COVID free and anything, no, then you are approachable. And if it is a police case, you will be facing the music. So therefore, what people do, okay, no, I don't want to soil my hands. I'll stay away from this. So this is what overuse of this approach. No, so no, I want to tell you the third point. So I try to stay away. I'll not get into that. I'll stay as far as possible. I want to help, but if I get into it, it will complicate things for me. Like that. So overuse of this approach. Okay, what will happen is problems will continue to intensify, and sometimes it will burst up suddenly. And I know what happens is, if you know, okay, this person is not willing to handle this conflict, and then the communication also stops. There's no point when he's staying away or keeping away. No, from this, I'll not do it. So therefore, the approaches, the examples of this approach is, I prefer not to discuss it. Better always being on the first quadrant or second quadrant. I don't want to go into that minus. I want to be safe. I've seen it, but I've not seen. That's outside my purview. That's outside my jurisdiction. This is happening in the other problem. So why should I get into it like that? So these are some situations of this avoiding approach. And the next is the collaborating approach. The collaborating approach is, wherein in a spirit of demonstrating unity, managers choose to collaborate by showing a high degree of assertiveness and cooperation. So you see, collaborating is high on assertiveness and high on cooperation. Yeah, we are there. We are all working for the company. See, the hallmark of companies like General Electric or a 3M Corporation or an Apple Corporation and all that is they want to be the best in the business. Okay. Or something like our Infosys or TCS. The leaders only, they are technocrats. They are experts in the business. So they know what is needed. And TCS has got more than 5 lakh employees. Infosys has got 3 lakh. Wipro has got close to 3 lakh. HCL. No, it's been from a long time. See, I'm telling you, from the 90s till now, 2020, 21, they're still doing good. Their manpower base is increasing only. It's because of the collaborating approach of the this one. So if there's an issue, there is a challenge, they always rise to the occasion and they do it. And then, this is a win-win approach actually. This is favored when both sides are, let's say, employees are not geared up, or let us say it is Fox Pro or Unix or C or Oracle or Java or some language they are dominant in, and something new comes up, and they resolve it. No, they'll know we are not capable, geared up for that. We cannot achieve it. No, they see how best you get to the resolving of the job, and therefore everybody works in line. So this is considered time consuming. No, there must be feeling that in the collaborating approach, one party is having the advantages, where insignificant matters are given attention and personal responsibilities. All these issues might crop up, but because you feel that the assertiveness is being used along with being cooperative, in order to achieve the results. So that's why. But otherwise, the examples are, this is my position. You tell, you just like a project proposal, you make a good evaluation, you give your proposal, you give your suggestion, and tell, this is my proposal, what is yours? Something like in negotiations and all, no, especially wages and all, the management, they want to provide increased wages to the employees. Let us say the way employees have been opposing, it's a good workplace. Sometimes, Bosch was earlier called as Motor Industries Company. It is a very famous organization which makes the fuel injector pumps and spark plugs, a German multinational which is in India. But they always have this issue because it's a labor-oriented organization. But sometimes they have come to the streets also, that tool down and strike, lockdown and all that. But the management always reciprocates their opinions, their thoughts, why they will not be able to give 100% of what is being requested by the employees front or unions. And then they draw this one, and they also put point whatever the management wants by way of new products, or if they are into diversification, the employees are always there for them. So that is what. So you convince and you lead by example. My position is this, what is yours? How can we solve this? There is an issue. Let's say our shares are declining, or our market share, or competition has increased in our segment. What do we do? How to solve this? No, this is what is called as the collaborating approach for conflicts, when you need all to be involved. My position is this. What is yours? I think I've copied it twice. And then the compromising approach is here, no, it's moderately cooperative and moderately assertive. It's a compromising approach to conflict resolution, and it finds a mutually acceptable solution. And here, a middle path has been identified. A middle ground has been found where both the parties can, let's say, like we advocate in the win-win, this one, no, to both parties can stake a claim to victory. Both are mutually benefited. Too much compromise, and you may come across as someone who has no firm values. Too little compromise again leads to further power struggles and confrontation. So you should be able to draw the line somewhere which you feel is a thin line, and which is the right threshold for compromise. Example is, okay, let's find a quick solution. And I'm prepared if you are prepared. If you are willing to come down to this, or it happens in our routine negotiations, okay, your price is so much, my price, if you come down, I'll also go up, like that. So this is again a widely used approach, the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument approach. There are numerous other methods also. See, something like we talk about the other conflict resolving mechanisms are the open door policy. The open door policy is there is no walls or there's no boundary between the management or the employees. No, you can walk in, you can just go, and they say sometimes what is that? Leo Tolstoy, a spark neglected can bring the house down. So it shouldn't escalate. So if there is small this one whistleblowers and all, no, if people want to tell some anomalies happening in the organization, they can walk straight to the company chief's office and tell him this is what is happening, and they can nip it in the bud. They can resolve it. Otherwise, it escalates. So if you feel no, we cannot approach. There's a lot of hierarchy. We cannot talk to that person, and so that's what is the open door policy to preempt the escalation of conflict. The next one is peer review panels. Peer review panels are, like in the organization, the employees will have a committee constituted by themselves to look into issues, especially in disciplinary issues, or if there is some conflicts. If you have multiple unions in the this one, then what they do is they'll nominate a set of, let's say, highly reputed, impressive, let's say qualified employees who have attained a sense of this one. No, they are respected across all these parties or affiliations. They look up to this person. Okay, he's a pioneer. He's an expert. So let's have him in the peer review. So they take a unbiased this one, and that is done there. And mediation. Mediation is you get a third party. So somebody mediates. No, it's a voluntary, non-binding process where the disputing parties reach an agreement with the aid of a neutral third party. That's called as mediation. There's an outside intervention. Sometimes, when there is a labor strikes, bank employees or the milk dairy employees, or there's a third party interlocutor. They say they come and they talk and they involve and they try to resolve, and they make these people only to decide. The next level, which is similar to mediation, is called as arbitration, wherein the arbitrator is given the authority to make the decision which is binding. So something like I told you, the labor commissioner, he comes into the picture when the workers are opposing and they want, okay, even if we don't get payment, it's fine, the company should close and all that. So he comes with a package or he comes with a solution, and both of them are agreeable to that. That's called as the arbitration type of resolving the conflict. And then there's another one called as the ombudsman, use of ombudsman. So ombudsman is something like, let's say there is a big conflict happening inside an organization or something, and they are not willing to look at any opinions of anybody within the organization. You get a person who is independent of the management and all that, who reports to the, so he's not biased by the management or he's not biased by any other agencies. So he gives a unbiased report to the conflicting team. That is, he reports to the highest authority. Something like you appoint a person for, let's say, NBA accreditation, who's neutral. He comes and whatever he asks for information or resources, the management has to provide because he's being funded by the this one. Something like consultants for problem solving in organizations and all. If there is an issue of you want a change to happen, you get a consultant or an ombudsman. If there is something happening, let us say in the canteen, or there is an issue, the food is not good, people are very hostile and rude and not being hospitable and courteous, then this ombudsman will give the real picture, what is really happening and like that. So this is there. And this I just put one slide. It's called the Universal Human Values, UHV, which most of us as a faculty in the, let's say, teaching profession, we have undergone this training. It is the 2 weeks training and 1 week training on universal human values, which talks about that understanding the self and how to live or to reduce conflicts. No, understanding the self better, being a part of the family and being a useful part of the society, and also as an essential part of the nature or the universe around. So that is also, I mean, those of us who attended know. But again, even if though some of you have not attended this, you can go to the AICT website, and these materials are available there on the universal human values. So one page I've took, it's a big one. There are a lot of slides there. So for a humane society and everything, you should have right understanding in every individual, no, which leads to happiness, and it leads to prosperity in the family. If everybody is happy, then there'll be prosperity in the family, and there will be fearlessness or trust in the society, and we'll be able to coexist in nature. No, that's called mutual fulfillment. This is a humane society. That AICT UHV, I told you, universal human values. And then we have the opposite. What can happen? No, contrary is the inhuman society, where it's like crowd or battlefield, where in every individual assumption are like money is everything, power is everything, and there is obsession for consumption, for profit, for sensual pleasure, and then it results in accumulation by any means. People want to accumulate wealth and property and all that. It will be in few individuals. Then it lead to domination and exploitation in the society. It leads to people taking resorting to nationalism or terrorism, or it could lead to war, like between countries when there's exploitation of resources can lead to war. And then this leads to, I told you, mastery and exploit over nature and resource depletion. That's what, no, we keep reading about certain MNCs. They have messed up with the resources in the universe and all that. So that's what all these conflicts do happen. So yeah, so that is what I wanted to tell you about. The conflicts can happen where research supervisor, uh, uh, it can lead to conflict in the allotment of the resources, and the employees, it can happen between in incentives. No, they don't get the desired incentive, and then what do you call, they go for a conflict. No, the incentive policy has to be revised. Or in promotion, see, I gave the example of, you promote, when you promote one person, the other person is going to get dissatisfied or disgruntled. And one of the reasons for attrition, no, is conflict. No, the attrition or people quitting companies or organizations could be because of uh, incompetent management, or it could be because of poor work-life balance, or it could be genuine reasons. You want to stay home nearer to, let's say, a new organization has come up which is nearer to your hometown, or this one you want to be there, or you want to be where your spouse is working, so you make some adjustments. But otherwise, if it's because of conflict, either with your boss or with your colleague, no, so you just want to get away from this one. So it could be between colleagues, in promotions, I told you, between boss and subordinate in promotion, or it could be in the CTC, or it could be flexi time. The flexi time is given to some employees, whereas the other employees are not given. So it could lead to some sort of conflict. And then the conflict could be because of the lifestyle of the individuals. See, somebody is very assertive, and the other person is not assertive, very introvert. He just likes minding his own job and all that. So it could be because of faculty and students. See, all these students are not compatible. Though, however, we take so much of experience into the classroom and all, there are sometimes we see some students who we just cannot convince. They just are a different, what you call, ball game altogether. You cannot align. You cannot make them convinced about your this one. They just okay. Sometimes we get flustered. What is this? So there is some sort of conflict. So the best way is we try to talk to them, call them aside, and like that, try to convince them the purpose and hello. And one more is, it could be because of
ಈಗ ಇದಾಗ್ತಿದೆ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ
And one more could be because of placements among states. I'm giving you various other reasons for why these things can happen. It could be because of placements. No placement, some students get placed in the campus, some don't get. Then that there's an internal conflict between them. So all these things, but everything is solvable. See now, you want to downsize your this one. No, you want to downsize. What do? Whom will you ask to go? Let's say the management tells 10% of your workforce has to be reduced. It's a very challenging this one. It's like a conflict. The person is not going to accept it sportingly. So they're all, if you know the right approach, you convince the person, tell
Sir,
that,
some questions are there in the chat box with comments. Can you answer them?
yeah, I'll do that, sir. I'll do that. So I was just coming to my last.
Because it is with the topic. It is
Yeah.
with the UHV, AICT committed. Some
Sure, sir.
comments are there and as well as some question is there.
I'll look
Take up
into it,
because
sir.
it is related to same slide.
I'll do that, sir. I'll go there. Okay, this is Dr. C.V. Mohan. Dear sir, when UHV is also proper, yes, sir, definitely. This is a very valid point. Dr. C.V. Mohan is mentioning in the chat box that UHV is best to avoid conflicts. So proper education is required at all organization at all levels. Definitely, in education is the right this one to avoid conflicts. And again, that approach, sir. If I think Dr. C.V. Mohan has very much convinced about that. If you go through that output, the handout of the this one, it's very useful. I mean, they have taken a lot of effort and energy to make it and to do that. And Professor Reddy Nayak, yeah, he's a dear friend of mine. Dr. Professor Reddy Nayak is telling, I hope Reddy Nayak, it's the same Reddy Nayak, is telling these days more of inhuman society. Definitely, sir. I totally agree with you. Yeah, this is also a fact we are seeing. More educated people are creating chaos. Yeah, this is also there. This is because of yeah, the greed for wealth also. Definitely, Professor Reddy Nayak, I agree with you. And Dr. Arun Kumar, yeah, yes, sir. You're right. Leaders also do need the orientation. So I'm agreeable to that. See, otherwise, what happens? No, this anomalies and differences crop up because of this. No, you are not like we talked about that open door policy and all. No? If there's no corrective action happening, and you don't realize, no, the power corrupts. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have so many leaders, good leaders who are not corrupt and all that. But again, there are some examples which we see. I think that's what makes you to make this comment. So good, sir. So I think I've seen the chat box. This one, I'll just yeah. So Dr. Rajesh, do I have this one for small video?
Yes, sir. We can go with another 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you tell me, I'll stop that.
Right, sir.
How do I go to the video, Rajesh? How do I go to that?
You want to minimize this, sir? Is it a separate file?
Yeah, it's a separate file.
Then you go to share that one, sir.
I'll
First,
stop share of this one, is it?
sir, you need to first open that. Double click
Yeah.
on it, sir. And then
Yeah,
say,
but
yeah, file share as, sir. You
yeah,
press
Rajesh. Yeah, Rajesh. I'll go to that.
yes, sir.
Yeah. So
It is visible. You just minimize this, sir.
yeah, Rajesh. I am. What is that? Video. Not this. I'll just do it for 3-4 minutes and then I'll stop.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. Sir, you share that now, sir.
Hello?
Share that video now, sir. Go back to
It's
share.
not coming, Rajesh.
No, it's not playing, sir.
Okay.
So consider giving them a try.
It's coming, Rajesh.
Number
now?
one, don't get defensive. In any conflict, whether it's professional or personal, we all feel the urge to rush to our defense. You may find yourself constantly trying to correct the other person's position with but, nevertheless, however, in defense of your own position before they are even finished explaining their opinion. Try turning the situation around. How do you feel when another person is constantly contradicting you and seems unwilling to consider your opinion? Take a moment and really try to see things their way. They have reasons for their point of view, just as you do for yours. This doesn't mean that you have to accept their position, but if you let them know you are taking them seriously, you can avoid things getting personal. Try using phrases such as, "I understand what you mean," and "that's a valid point." Signal that you respect their opinion, even if you don't agree. Number two, avoid the blame game. When you feel under attack and go on the offensive, even calling the other person's character or intelligence into question, you cannot really win. All you've done is made an enemy. Avoid blaming others. Instead, establish an atmosphere of respect, one in which everyone can safely express themselves. Let others state and explain their points of view without launching an attack. Number three, listen actively. Perhaps the greatest way to resolve a conflict is by really listening. You want to express yourself, so let others express themselves. Instead of listening just to discover flaws and formulating counter-arguments while they are speaking, listen to what they have to say. You may discover that you didn't really understand the point the other person was actually making. You may discover common ground. In any case, they will respect you for listening. Number four, begin statements with I. When you begin statements with you, it sounds like you are pointing a finger at the other person. This actually betrays a weakness on your part. Your opinion should stand on its own merits, not rely on another person's flaws. If you think that the other person is not allowing you to express yourself, just let them know how that affects you. "I feel like I'm not being understood" is far less confrontational than "you aren't listening." The first statement relates to yourself. The second one is directed at the other person and destined to put them on the defensive. This can make a big difference in a conversation. These kinds of I statements give the other person a chance to pause and rethink their own behavior. It can lead to an atmosphere of mutual respect. Number five, tame your emotions.
Okay, that was a YouTube video. I thought I'll stop sharing that. So any questions now? That's all. I've come to my, Dr. Rajesh, I've come to my conclusion. I did my presentation and this one. If there are any questions, maybe they could ask now. You can ask.
Dear participants, I think the question answer session is open. So you can post your questions
Yeah,
or
dear sir, you
Yes,
tell
sir.
me how you face the conflicts in your own profession. Like, example, one of that you can share and how you overcome, and what made you to take the pain, how you just passed it. Is it by time or by intelligence or by any other technique you
No,
solved the issues?
no, sir, Dr. Mohan, I would like to share with you. See, I worked in a company called Ashok Leyland. So this is one issue which has always been there with me. There was, if you see that example that I was trying to give was based on that. There were two of myself and my colleague. My colleague, I'm not taking his name. Both of us were expecting promotion from assistant manager to the deputy manager was the level. But you know what? There was this manager who spoke to both of us separately. He was asking, see, there are constraints. I can promote only one of you. I cannot promote both. So what do I do? Then I told, no, sir, you take an objective decision. But what happened was later on when the promotion period came, it happens in appraisals happen in April, May, and by June the promotions come up. And then the other person got promoted. Then I was very cross. Then I went and spoke to that manager and I said, so you didn't give me a chance. You told. Then he told, no, I asked you. You didn't tell your. I mean, you told like this, but the other person told that he really needs this promotion because it is going to make a change in his lifestyle and his livelihood and all that. Then I felt very this one. I wasn't speaking to that person. It was like a conflict. No, it's like intra-departmental. But then later on, when I spoke to him, I really came to know that yeah, this is really. I mean, he deserved it like that. So then I was telling my spouse also. I was telling negative things about him to her, but later on I started telling, no, he deserved it. Later on, I also got that this one. So this is one real time with this one. Since you asked me about how I thought, like you said, as you rightly said, time does the healing. No, and sometimes when I don't know, it happens to most of us. We stop speaking to people whom we would have liked to continue the conversation with, but sometimes they say you go with that olive branch, or you try to make it this one, and definitely you'll see. Okay, you were avoiding communicating for a very trivial reason and all that. So this win-win, this one is a very good approach, sir. So like that, even in my academic, this one, no, I have seen there are some issues like with students. Most of them fall in line, but there are some exceptions. We try to convince them, and if there are some who feel their point of view is right, no, we don't pressurize them and just leave it. So see, your peace matters also. So like that. So this is my this one, sir. Since you asked me about my personal
Yeah,
experiences.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Nicely shared.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
But
Thank you very much.
you take on EQ there, emotional quotient you increased.
Yes,
You
yes,
went
sir.
inside their problem.
Yes,
And
yes.
you felt like it is requirement is there than
Yes.
yourself.
Definitely,
Your
sir.
potential.
No, as
Good, good.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely,
Good.
sir.
Yeah, good, good. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Rajesh?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm done, Rajesh. So you want to say something?
It's a great job that's executed, sir. Rightfully.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh.
So it's really good to have a close friend of mine, and
Definitely, I reciprocate the feelings.
a
Thank you.
common speaker in most of the program that I organize, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh.
So thanks a lot, sir, for making the session a very interesting ones. And
Yes,
we
sir.
had all the participants reciprocating to the questions posted.
Yes, sir.
And you've always been very close to me and the department.
Definitely,
And thanks a lot,
Rajesh.
sir,
Thank
for
you.
accepting our invitation to be a part of this program as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you once again, sir, from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Once again, thank you for inviting me to be a speaker in this your FDP. It was an honor. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic,
Thank
sir.
you.
Fantastic
Thank
to
you.
know.